Here's to a healthy relationship in the new year. That's our topic next on City Corner. I'm Steve Potter, and welcome to City Corner. Well, it's a new year. We just celebrated Valentine's Day. Spring is around the corner. I don't know what that kind of spells love to me. I'm not sure, but our guest is going to help us with that. Please welcome Christine Kniffen. She's a therapist in private practice.
Hi, Steve. Christine. Nice to be here.
Right. We do kind of a, not just Valentine's Day, but the whole spring thing. Flowers blooming, temperatures warming, love is in the air. Is that just all in our minds?
No, it's an awakening after kind of a depressing winter, which we've definitely had. And that's when people kind of hibernate, and if they aren't in a relationship, they start getting in the mood to be in a relationship again. People start thinking about, I want to be on patios, I want to be maybe sipping a little wine, going on dates. So yes, I think people get much more motivated to get out there and find love in a good relationship.
Well, I hate to start this conversation off in a negative way, but aren't we setting ourselves up for disaster?
No, not if we learn what we need to learn. I think what happens is a lot of people end up in my office for relationship coaching because they're having a little doubt in their ability to make good choices based on the experiences they've had. And so you have to think about what it is you really want and need, and you have to really insist upon that and go, oh, I really like you, but you know what, I just know this isn't going to work for me. That's the part that's hard for people, being responsible to themselves and then actually thinking about what they need. You know, I'm 55 years old, so a while ago I had to stop going, oh, I like you, there's chemistry in the air, and just, like a rabbit down a hole. You have to, you can be in love, but then there's a whole different skill set for what it takes to have a good working relationship where you can talk and you can be vulnerable and you can work out your differences instead of want to beat each other in the head over it.
And I kind of referenced it, expectations. Sometimes I think our expectations maybe don't match reality because don't a lot of us grow up thinking we're expected to have a perfect relationship, and if it's not perfect, something's wrong with us?
We do. The whole, we're going to know each other. We're going to know our thoughts. Everybody's like, if you really love me or knew me, you would know this upsets me. So yeah, expectations are everything. I mean, it's unmet needs that create unhappiness in a relationship, but it's always expectations. Whether anybody likes it or not, the main idea of what a relationship looks like we got from our parents' relationship. That can either be good or somebody, like I say, wants to run to Mexico. So the thing is, as a result of that, that's one of the things I do in relationship coaching. We kind of get an understanding of your parents' relationship, and therefore I understand your expectations, because the real problem with expectations are you expect too much, which was your angle, and then you're never going to be satisfied and no one can meet that. Or the opposite is you have too little expectations. So then you're not happy because you let the wrong people in and you're not treated as well as you'd like to be.
What you just said really struck me about your parents. I sure think that makes a huge difference. With I psychoanalyze my friends. I guess we all do that.
There you go.
We all do that, don't we?
Yeah.
And one thing I joke about, and it's not really a joke, I didn't realize how normal my family was. I thought they were just, what everyone has. Until I grew up, and when you get to know people, you learn a lot about their families, and I couldn't believe how dysfunctional some people's families are.
Yes, unfortunately,
no,
that's
really,
true.
Yeah.
And that does cause a lot of problems, because many people come into my office and they'll, even as single people, maybe not I do a lot of marriage and couples counseling, but they come into the office and they'll tell some story and go, is that too much to expect? I feel that a lot of people don't really understand what they have a right to expect out of a solid relationship in terms of, boundaries or how people behave in the relationship. And I feel a lot of people aren't really sure on that. So they sit around kind of suffering with, like, am I asking too much? Do I have a right to ask this? And I do think people have trouble with that.
Yeah, I think parents are everything. I didn't realize how lucky I was. I never saw, I'm sure my parents had their disagreements and issues, but you know what? We never knew that as kids, which I think is the right thing to do. Not every kid is that lucky, though. And tell me how that influences a little child relationship-wise, seeing how your parents react, either very functional and respectful, or issues. That makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Well, I think it has to do with what you do with something. I always kind of say that if something's on a continuum at one end of the spectrum, let's just say, I don't know, you have parents who you never saw them hug, you never saw them kiss. I mean, you're going to probably go on and be like that, or you're going to be very needy and need a lot of that. And in those ways, things cause problems. You know, that's what it is. If people saw parents who argued all the time, they might say to themselves, you know, people who love each other don't argue. Well, then what do? You go get in relationships, and when something bothers you or hurts your feelings, you do everything to avoid conflict. So you're not really being emotionally honest. So you kind of get in the way of the relationship growing together and having more emotional intimacy. So it's a lot of those ways. Unfortunately, we gravitate to the familiar, whether we like it or not. And so sometimes people gravitate to poor behavior that they saw growing up.
Did I misinterpret you? Did you say maybe having conflicts is healthy? Arguments is healthy?
Everyone has conflicts. Yes, that's just natural. We're not dating ourselves. There's going to be differences. It's people don't know how to work out the differences. They want to jump ship. You know, we're different on A, B, and C. We can't be together. I'm like, but you have to learn to bridge, and I don't mean really value conflicts. You know, you're completely dishonest and I'm honest. I don't mean that. But I mean differences in approaching things, how strongly you feel something's right or wrong. We have to learn to bridge that, because we'll just go jump to another person and there'll be differences just on different areas. Conflict is to be expected, and people shouldn't be afraid of, or even afraid of the word confrontation, because it just means to confront. And that's an adult life skill. The problem is that people don't know how to work out the differences. It's not as much that they have them, because you're going to have differences about something else with someone else. So if you just keep running away from the differences, you're never going to find it. People have to work those differences out and bridge them.
So how do you have that healthy conflict then? What's the trick?
Well, you call it healthy conflict. I wouldn't call it that. I would say you feel differently about things, and you have to figure out, you have to teach people how to say, listen, you know, when I want to say something's hurt my feelings, my favorite thing is to keep your defensiveness at bay is, I'm not saying you've done anything wrong, and I'm not saying everyone would feel this way. But when you did this, this is how it made me feel, and it hurt my feelings. So I don't see that as conflict. I see that as an conflict arising from trying to talk to someone about how you feel, not that you sit around and have a bunch of conflict. Mm-hmm. And the way people handle that, that's the problem. That's why everybody's in couples counseling. I try to tell you that it's hurt my feelings when you did X, Y, and Z. But you have to work at that. Most people would go, I can't believe you did this. Mm-hmm. Well, then if you're coming at me mad and I didn't do it intentionally, I'm not going to validate you, and I'm not going to hear it. Mm. And so that's really what the problem is. The conflict arises in trying to talk to each other. Mm-hmm. And how to learn to own your feelings, get out of angry and intense, come back to something about that either hurt my feelings, I felt disrespected, not taken in consideration, and learning how to how to bring the appropriate, feeling of what's going on with you, and that you feel okay. Like I said, I'm not saying everybody's feelings would be hurt, but this is me. I have a right to it, and it hurt my feelings. And people are afraid to do that because, what if the person doesn't care? I'm like, well, that's another couple of therapy sessions.
You mentioned confidence.
Yes.
Is that a key to a successful relationship? Like me being confident myself, because maybe if I'm really confident, I won't be so offended by you challenging me. Does that make any sense?
Yes, that's one way to look at it. I think the way I'd look at where the confidence is needed is the confidence in your ability to validate your own feelings. Like I said, I'm not going to, because, in the old days when I had less self-esteem, I'd have an argument in a relationship. I'd have to call up 5 or 6 people and go, wouldn't you be upset if this happened? Wouldn't you feel the same way? I don't have to do that anymore, because it doesn't matter what anybody else feels. I'm not going to yell at you or scream because you haven't done anything wrong. But it's okay for me to go, wow, this is how, it really hurt me. I struggled. This is what it felt like to me when you did this or you said this to me. The confidence that my feelings are valid, that's the confidence. Because when you don't have that confidence, you're screaming your feelings, you're crying about your feelings. When you really go, I have a right to feel this way. It's not right or wrong or anything. It's my feeling, and I'm relaying it. When you know you have a right to that, you don't have to get all amped up to deliver it. You don't have to cry like I did in the old days, like I'm going to be told I'm stupid or too sensitive. I don't do any of that anymore. I just go, This is what, it's not, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying, but when you did this, I really struggled because it felt this way to me and it hurt my feelings.
So is expectations a problem then? People expecting things to be perfect. I mentioned that before. Not so much on TV today, but back when I was younger, like most TV shows, people in relationships and family life, everything was perfect. And when you grow up thinking something's wrong with you if it's not perfect, that kind of sets you up for disaster, doesn't it?
Well, yes, I always laugh that you know, my mom will always joke and say, yes, I'm Little Miss Perfect. I go, Mom, that's not something you want to aspire to, because there's only one way to go but down.
Right.
Yeah, the expectations are a problem. And yes, you're kind of alluding to, yeah, all the romance novels and everything, how everything was perfect. You'd meet, you would know, it would just work out.
Do you ever watch Father's Knows Best or something like that, and the family is just...
Everything's perfect. Well, yeah, but that isn't realistic.
Right.
Yeah, and so yes, having unrealistic expectations, like I said earlier, does set you up for disappointment. Because people will always, I call them bumps. I don't call them they have conflict. I think it's a charged word. People have bumps. You'll say something to me really in the moment, and I'll go, oh, well, that was an insult or that was disrespectful. That doesn't mean everybody would interpret it that way, and that doesn't mean I'm right. It means that's what it made me feel. And I need to learn how to not be angry. I can't believe you talked to me. I need to go, okay, what about that upset me? Well, that kind of hurt my feelings. I felt like you snapped, and I didn't feel I deserved it, and I'm sensitive to that. And I have a confidence that I'm not going to be called a baby or just have a problem, that I can come back and say that to you. And that's what you need to do. And I call those bumps in the road. Every relationship has bumps. I misinterpret something you say, or you do something that maybe is too far off my value system and I don't like it and I struggle with it. But everybody wants to get to everybody and talk as if you're right and wrong, instead of, well, this is how I feel, or this is what I need, because that's much more vulnerable than being angry.
But Christine, we see people all the time. We have friends, and we go, their relationship is perfect. They get along so well. What? I can't do that.
And then when they break up, people are astounded. Oh my God, I can't believe they broke up.
Right.
But you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know how well they're really communicating or working out their differences, or when they get upset about something, how well they're expressing it so they can put it to rest, as opposed to piling it up to come lashing out later. You don't have any idea what's going on with people. Nobody has a perfect relationship. But I will say this, kind of on the opposite thing. I think Justin Bieber, not that I'm a big Bieber person, said it the other day, so like, marriage is hard. People want to go, marriage is a lot of work. See, I don't believe marriage is a lot. I don't believe relationships are a lot of work.
You don't?
No, I believe when people are saying, wow, this is a lot of work, I think there's some compatibility issues and people are trying to force it. Most of the time when it's a good match, it's not that difficult. There will be times, but in general, there should be an easier flow.
Okay. If there are 100 couples sitting over there right now, how many of them would need to come see you?
I don't know. Anyone who thinks they're not being heard and validated.
Is that 99% of the couples or half of them?
Gosh, I don't know. I really can't tell you. I bet half are doing pretty well.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good news.
Yeah.
It's better than I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about love and relationships in the new year, and we'll have more of that on City Corner right after this.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's put a ride home.
Action.
I'm Steve Potter, and welcome back to City Corner. We're talking with Christine Kniffen. She is a relationship therapist. Give us your resume.
Well, I'm an LCSW, a licensed clinical social worker. So a lot of people who are therapists or counselors in town, one of two acronyms, either LCSW, licensed clinical social worker, master's in social work, 2 years supervised experience, and a rather unattractive test. Yeah. And a lot of people are also LPCs, licensed professional counselor. That is master's in counseling, 2 years experience, and a rather unattractive test. So I'm a traditional therapist by training. So I work with people on the usual things people would go to therapy for.
You have a private practice now.
Private practice, yep, in Clayton. Loss and grief, substance abuse, mental health issues, all those types of things. But one of the things that's my big passion are relationships. So I do a lot of work with relationship coaching, helping people who feel like they can't find a relationship learn to do it differently, figure out what they need and all that's entailed. And I do a lot of marriage and couples counseling as well.
Why were you drawn to that, to relationships? Why do you think you were drawn to that?
Honestly, I think because my parents did not connect in the way that I probably would want to. And something about that has created a passion to have a fantastic relationship and help other people do that, because I think it's so important.
How long have you been doing this?
About 20 years. Yeah.
And you must talk to all different kinds of people.
I do, and I love that.
See, I have this image that just people in dire distress will come to you because their life's about to end. But do you find people come for advice when it's not that bad?
Sure. I mean, I think I read a study years ago where something like 80% of the people who come into a therapist's office do so because of a relationship that went awry.
80%?
Well, that's what I read because, it's a pretty, nothing sends you to the emotional upheaval a lot of times like a relationship that's gone wrong. So some people come in, they're heartbroken, something has just ended, they can't accept it, they can't understand it, why, it makes no sense. But there are plenty of people who just come in and go, well, I just got out of something, I just kind of don't want to make the same mistake, so I come in for that. People come in to see me, though, for all kinds of reasons. I maybe drink too much. Oh, and by the way, my relationship's terrible. So, it's just all, things all just kind of roll into each other. But people come in very different situations. There are people who have probably needed to come to couple counseling 10 years ago who come in and it's really bad. And there are people who, they've been here a little while, they're just having a little issues and they don't want it to get worse. So I think that's really kind of determined on what kind of personality you are and how much you kind of attack life and its problems.
Okay, Christine, we need a professional opinion.
Yes.
Are we all supposed to have relationships? Should we feel bad if we don't?
I don't think you need to feel bad, but I believe it's like anything. I think it's like the cherry on top of the sundae. It's not about that it completes you, but it certainly adds a lovely dimension. I think it's important. I think it's okay if people don't want to have them, but when they're good, they're so good that I, of course, just want everyone to have that because I'm that type of person.
But do you think it's important for everyone to have one? Are we not going to have a fulfilled life if we don't?
No, I don't believe that. I just think it's I'm always looking for the nth. I'm a Scorpio. We always want the nth, the next, the best of whatever we can have. So no, I don't. I think people are perfectly fine. There are people who don't have relationships. It's not, you don't want to look for a relationship when you're alone and thinking I'll never find anyone because you're going to let the wrong person in. It's best to find a relationship when you're like, I don't need one, but one would be nice. So no, I don't think I think it's fine if you're not in one. But I just personally think it can be just a little sweeter in a good one.
There are two kinds of people, I think. Well, more than two kinds of people. But you have friends, don't you? I know friends that have never been single. They go from one relationship to another. It's just like a priority. On the other hand, I know people just the opposite. My grandmother lived to be 103. And her husband died when they were in their early 60s, and she lived to be 103. So I remember, like, when she was older, I would ask her, because she never dated after that or married again, and I'd ask her, maybe you never wanted another relationship or something? She goes, he was the only man for me. So she never even tried after that.
Well, my grandma was almost the exact thing. Grandma made it to almost 104, and her husband, my grandpa, died and when she was in her very early 60s. So yeah, you do see that a lot. But It has a lot to do with expectations. If you're sitting around pining away, I'll never find anyone because I'm too old, then I think you feel bad about it, but I don't think it bothered my grandma a bit. So no, I don't think you're suffering without one. I just think, in my opinion, it can be an added nicety.
And how about those people who go from one to another? Now, I'm sure I'm wrong. I'm going to sound judgmental, and I don't mean to be.
It's quite all right.
But I always, at least it's just between you and me. I always, my friends who go from one relationship to another, I always thought something's wrong with them. I'm wrong, aren't I?
I think in my field, I would say that I don't find that terribly healthy, and this is the reason why. First, I have to say, are you okay being alone?
Isn't that important?
Can you be alone? Well, I think it's important to be alone because that's how you know, are you comfortable in your own skin? Do you know what to do with yourself when you're really upset or particularly sad or angry? I think that's part of self-care and knowing how to take care of yourself. I think it's important to know, to be able to be alone too, because then you're not going to put too much pressure on somebody else to do things for you. You know, you need to know how to entertain yourself, how to occupy your own mind and things like that. But the other thing is, I think people need, you know, a little healthy period of respite after something ends to gather, okay, what just happened there? Well, could I have done anything differently? Because I think you need to assess what happened so you can sort of guarantee you don't find yourself in the same situation, because I don't like to have Groundhog Day over and over again, so I wouldn't be interested in that. But I think it's healthier to take a period of time to reflect, you know, because even when all relationships aren't supposed to work out. Some people, they don't work out and they're like, they're always failures and they're viewing it as a failure and they don't want to fail again. So like, see how they keep themselves from going into one? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think all relationships aren't supposed to work out. You know, there's some cute little phrase, they're relationships for a season, a reason, and a lifetime. And I kind of like that. But you can learn something from virtually any relationship. But if you just jump into the next one, you're clearly not reflecting and learning that. And it's a lot about making sure you don't end up in the same situation. Right. So I think it's healthy. And also, I think it's more fair to the person you're bringing in that you don't still maybe have a little bit of that you're dragging along with you, whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm. And don't you find a lot of people maybe move too fast? You know, they meet someone they really like, and then this was I've observed, they move in together too fast or something. My experience over a lifetime is, no, you don't fall in love after a month. I think it takes 2 years of dating to actually know a person. That's just my thing. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if I agree with the 2 years, but I do agree it takes a while, because in the beginning you're not in love. You're in some kind of, you know, you're in lust and you're in excitement about the possibility. But I believe love is, like Gary Zukav said, he wrote a book called Seed of the Soul and was on Oprah years ago. And I always say this, he said love's not something you fall into, love is cultivated. See, I believe that. That when people get, you know, they're like in love in 2 weeks, that's almost some fake thing they've created where they're suddenly up here and there's no base that's been built. You're not in love because I was a jerk and you're still there, you know, and that kind of thing. There's no base for it. So I do think people, they get in love with the idea of being in love and a feeling.
Right.
And that's a really different thing than what's required to have a good relationship. And so then they don't query for that. They're just like, it's a feeling, I love you, you're crazy about me, we're immediately like this. You know, just wait till you have your first disagreement and see how poorly it's handled, and then you're just in shock about it.
Well, maybe you think 2 years is too long, but at least don't people can move too fast in living together at least? Isn't that one thing you should put off?
Well, I don't know about that even too. The thing that I really get on is let's keep the sex at bay for a while. I'm big on that because I think you need a chance to decide, oh, you know, you've got your wants and needs list that you've made in my office about what you think you need. You know, a needs list is, I'll take the opposite of what went wrong in the other things. It's a lot of, maybe you're putting down your core values because people like to have people with some, you know, I want some honesty and some integrity, things like that. You know, the opposite of what went wrong in the other relationships. And then I help them fill in the things that have to be there for any relationship to work. But you need a little time to assess that. You also need time to not be afraid to rock the boat. I need to be able to find something to bring up that I kind of bothered me that you did and see how well you handle that. Because if you get defensive and we can't ever have those kind of talks, I'm like, that's not a good one to get in, because you're going to inherently have these issues because you're different people. And you should do that well, figure all that out well before getting physical. The reason is, it's not actually a morality thing with me, it's a practicality thing. Because if it doesn't work out and then you've been physical, then you're gonna beat yourself up and then be, oh, I can't believe I did that. It's like, it's almost extra ammunition to beat up on yourself. because that's just another dimension of disappointment. If it's just you were dating and it hadn't gotten that far, you'd be like, well, this is a bummer. I thought this was going to be a good one. But by the time you add the physicality and then it doesn't work out, it's so much more dramatic and upsetting. That's what I think.
Well, you brought up sex.
Yes.
So, this is going to sound like a dumb question. How important is that in a relationship? I know it is in the beginning, but haven't you known people have been together forever, and it seems like to me it's not an important part of the relationship anymore, and I don't mean that's unhealthy.
No, look, after a while, been there, seen that, done that. Like I said, I have 7 salad dressings on the door of my refrigerator, you know. So what I'm saying is, no, you do see that a lot, because that actually takes work to keep that side lively. But what has to happen, really, what's more important is that people sit down and they say, look, you have a finite amount of energy to put into intimacy, the communication, emotional sharing, and the physicality, right? The hand-holding to the love-making. You should really have a talk with each person, because they can be very different. Not just between men and women, but between people. You know, sometimes if I say you have a finite amount of energy to put into the arena of intimacy and feeling connected, how would you divvy that up in the communication, sharing, talking, and the sex? You're often, but not always, going to get men to go like, 60 or 70 in the physical, and then 30, 40 and then sometimes with the women you get the direct opposite. So people need to talk and understand that. And then when you're not connected, the women are like, he just wants to have sex. I'm like, no, he wants to be connected. And so I think people among themselves need to have a good talk about, in order to really feel close and connected, how would they divvy those percentages up? And if they find themselves to be pretty different, find a bridging of that.
Now you mentioned men and women.
Yeah.
What about same-sex relationships? Are those, or do they play by different rules, or is it all the same?
No, it's the same thing. It's how do I feel, if it would be how do I feel, which one makes me feel more close and connected? How would I personally, if I had a finite amount of energy to put into those 2 arenas to go, I really feel close to you and connected? I'd probably say 65 in the communication, 35 in the physical. But we're all different. That is not a right or wrong. But instead of seeing that as some rejection of you, you should understand that that's just, so that's why that's an important talk for people to have, to go, oh, well, it's not me, you're not rejecting me, that's just kind of how you feel. Well, if you find those are really different, then, okay, you realize you need to have the physicality a little more because that's how he or she's feeling connected. Okay, you need to talk a little more because that's really knowing each other, and that's what intimacy is.
Well, Christine Kniffen, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel a little more enlightened about this. I might even go out and try to meet someone today.
Hey.
Would that be a good idea?
Not a bad one. I can help you with that,
Oh,
too.
no, we'll talk later, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, Christine. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And here's hoping the best in your relationship. We'll see you next time on City Corner. Bye.